Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Jurassic World Legacy Collection Reimagined Tyrannosaurus Rex All-Terrain Capture Pack. This was a set that I was so okay. So to make a long story short, I have been begging and pleading, number one most wanted figure from Mattel was Nick Van Owen. And we have Nick Van Owen finally, and I'm super excited to finally have a Nick Van Owen, but it's not the Nick Van Owen I wanted, so it's just kind of disappointing where it's yes, I finally got the character I wanted, but it's not a film accurate appearance, which is what I wanted. And it's just disappointing to me in general that finally got the figure I've been wanting for years, and then it's this 90s version. It's a cool figure, don't get me wrong. I'm really bummed that the Legacy Reimagined collection has replaced the Legacy collection and we don't get film accurate figures anymore. We get these 90s action figure-y ones, which they're cool, don't get me wrong, but this would be cool if we had normal Nick Van Owen. Still super excited to have a Nick Van Owen in the collection, but just kind of bummed I am that it's not truly the film accurate one. But I will be as objective as I can with this set. This is a new set that just came out. I think it retails for $53. It's that same price point as the T-Rex breakout set with Tim Murphy, the Isla Sorna T-Rex set, or the 93 Classic T-Rex set. It's that same price point, and you get a T-Rex vehicle and human figure, which is pretty standard. Mattel puts one of these out on average every 2-ish years. So yeah, and it's part of the new Legacy Reimagined wave. It'll be coming out. It already is out. I was able to get it, and then it's dropping alongside the Claire set and the Quetzalcoatlus, which is a little odd because this set I would have thought would have gotten a Beyond the Gates episode, but it never did. So yeah, box is cool. It's your standard Legacy Reimagined, which I do like the packaging. You got the Jurassic Park Jeep motif, the Reimagined logo, the Legacy Collection logo. It says activate the capture trap. It says the description. You can see everything being the T-Rex, capture trap, vehicle, and Nick Van Owen. The side of the box has just got the Legacy Collection logo that they still use, and then Reimagined Legacy Collection. And then the back of the box does show off everything included, being the T-Rex with chopping action. It can launch, breakaway hood piece, and Nick Van Owen. You can scan it into Jurassic World Facts as always. Packaging is actually quite nice on this. I really like the top of the box. It has the Ford Explorer motif, so I do really like the presentation of this box. It's just everything in the box, I'm just kind of whatever. And that's generally how I feel about most Legacy Reimagined sets, unfortunately. It's a cool subline, but I'm just still bummed that it replaced the superior Legacy collection. Here's that code, UPC code, if you wanted to scan it. And yeah, this one's probably going to take me a minute to open up, but I will go ahead and open this setup on camera for you guys. So here's everything in the set out of the box, and just initial price per piece value, honestly not bad for your it's either $53 or $58. You're getting quite a lot, which is nice, because some of these Mattel sets it doesn't feel like you're getting enough. This one, I would argue you're getting your money's worth as far as just stuff. So that's pretty cool, and it's all new stuff. It looks like there might be a little bit of reuse on the Rex, but this all looks like new sculpting. That's fairly exciting. So included is this T-Rex trap, vehicle with breakable piece and turret, Nick Van Owen with backpack and camera accessories. So that's pretty cool. We'll start the breakdown with the T-Rex. We'll get into the figure included, and then we'll go over the vehicle, because I think the vehicle is pretty involved, which is kind of cool. and then we will do what everything is based off of, and then some comparisons. So initially, pictures of this set and like seeing it, was not super jazzed about this T-Rex. I noticed the new head sculpt right off rip, but this is actually pretty much new sculpting for the most part. I was initially just going to throw this guy in the bin, not like the trash can, but I was just going to put it in storage because I was like, but actually this is a fairly nice new-ish T-Rex sculpt. I will grab a couple of my legacy, because this is like the smaller size legacy collection scale Extreme Chomp and T-Rex. It's an Extreme Chomp and T-Rex for sure, but this looks like pretty much a new sculpt other than maybe the body and tail. And then the legs maybe have some reuse, but yeah, it's like pretty much a new T-Rex, which is, you know, pretty cool. And it's relatively, well, now that I'm looking at it, I was gonna say it's relatively well painted. And then you look at the feet and the claws and it's like, yikes. They could have spared a little bit of black paint on these feet. They look pretty bad just being cast in orange. But, you know, the orange and purple color scheme is certainly something. It's a reference to a figure. I'll do the comparisons later. I actually don't own most of the figures that this set is based off of, so I'll have to get creative. But pretty much a new T-Rex. And what's really cool is I saw the new head sculpt like from the promotional photos. I was like, that's cool. But then these legs, they gave the Rex ankle articulation, which we have not seen like this on a standard figure only Hammond collection. So that's actually pretty cool, because if they want to reuse this sculpt or even just reuse these legs, we can get like this ankle articulation in a cheaper form. So that's actually really cool. I'll break down everything on this T-Rex, but it just can give this figure a lot more posability, which I think is super cool. So it's not something I expected, so I'm pretty excited about that. And it is pretty much a whole new sculpt, so we'll take a look at the Rex. But it's cool because you can get it kind of in lower crouching kind of poses with the ankles, and then you can pivot the head up, so you can kind of really do a lot with this guy. It looks more like a male T-Rex, that's why I'm calling it a guy. It's based off of a male T-Rex. It's not obvious it's based off the Omega T-Rex from Chaos Effect, but I'll get into that later. It's an Extreme Chompin' Rex, so it does the Extreme Chompin' gimmick. You can press this button on the head, and its mouth will open, quite wide I may add, and it's relatively fluid. Yeah, it's a pretty fluid piece. It doesn't feel janky at all. Some of these can feel a little tight at times. It feels pretty good. Head sculpt is quite nice, and it does appear they painted the pupil. It initially looked like they did not, but the pupil is black. They could have just left it purple. The teeth are also plastic inserts, and they are like a soft rubber material. So that's cool. It really gives the T-Rex kind of look like it has lips, which is super cool. And like the front profile on this Rex is great. It kind of looks like a little overbitey, but it looks good. The new teeth. The arms are new. It's like kind of curved in, and they will move back and forth. They do not appear to move out from the body at all. Let me see if they do have that. No, they do not have that joint. They'll move back and forth though, which is pretty neat. And then the tail is your standard affair. It is articulated. That's a little clicky and tight. Plastic, I will say, does feel cheaper than your average Mattel plastic, but it might be because it's cast in this orange color and they might have had to use a cheaper plastic, or just orange plastic feels weaker. We don't have a lot of orange figures, but this plastic does feel different. And then the feet are super cool. Like I said, obviously you got the articulation here where it'll move back and forth. It does not appear to move out at all. No, it does not, but you do have added articulation at the ankle, so it can move side to side. And then you've got like a full range of motion on the foot, which is super nice. It just sucks because the toes are unpainted, so it looks pretty barren. Like the lack of paint on this guy, it doesn't look awful, but there has been more painted Rexes, but there's also been less painted Rexes. So there's that. Speaking of the foot, there's your scan code, Jurassic World Facts. Yeah, it's a pretty decent T-Rex. I was completely ready to write this guy off, but actually a fairly exciting Rex. Moving on. So here's Mr. Van Owen, and I am a little disappointed with this figure. Not like it, the figure itself objectively is a fine figure. I just would have really liked a film accurate look. This is not a film accurate appearance to Nick Van Owen. He's very 90s-ified, which kind of sucks because I've been wanting a Nick Van Owen forever, and it's just kind of like, we were so close to getting what I wanted, but it's not a bad figure at all. Objectively, we'll break down the figure. So the likeness to Vince Vaughn is actually pretty solid. It's clearly Vince Vaughn, so that is cool. It does look like him, and the plastic, it looks like, it doesn't look glossy, it looks like nice and matte, so you can really just kind of make out his facial details. This is based off of the Series 2 Nick Van Owen, which is, funnily enough, my #1 most wanted retro figure that I don't have in my collection because it's very expensive. Most everything included in this set, the original versions, are quite expensive. So he's pretty clearly based off of that figure, including down to the accessories. I don't own it, but he does come with a camera, and I do think the 90s one comes with a camera. The 90s ones I do have come with a camera, but it's like a camcorder. This is like his proper camera, and it's quite a nice accessory. It looks like his camera in the movies. It looks like a 90s camera that he'd use for photography, so that's pretty cool. And then he comes with his backpack. Now, this is not a standard backpack. It originally, the toy from the 90s, the backpack folds out into like a trap. I don't know what they were going for here, because it doesn't look like it's gonna trap anything, because like it would open up. Can't tell if this opens. I've already not broken it, but it pops off, so I'll just pop that off for now. This would like open up, and there'd be like a little piece of meat inside, and then you could use it to trap the dinosaur. And funnily enough, that figure came with an herbivore, came with the hatchling for the Mamenchisaurus, so it wouldn't have trapped the Mamenchisaurus anyway. It's not going to eat meat. So yeah, kind of an odd accessory TBH. I'll look at the box to see if what they want you to actually do with this, but a little confused. It's a backpack, so it'll pop out and we can put it on our figure. Try to do this on camera. I'm doing it the wrong way, maybe. I don't know. This accessory is confusing me. Generally though, the figure itself, once I get it kitted up, I like the facial feature, but otherwise it's pretty barren. There's like no paint. It's all casted plastic, which is a little disappointing. I think the only paint is the stuff on the face and then the boots. Now, it doesn't look horrible, but it also doesn't look great either. A little paint detail on his vest would have been nice. Like this, his undershirt like should be blue, because if he's wearing the bulletproof vest, he'd like have the undershirt, and then the legs are pretty egregious. Like nothing on his belt is painted, but his accessories kind of make up for it, and the fact that we have a Nick Van Owen is super exciting. So I'm not gonna harp on it too much, but it is kind of lame that Mattel kind of cheaped out on the paint on this human figure. So that's my thoughts on that. Another thing I'll add is the way they had the figure posed in the box. His legs are like really splayed and they will not go together. Would much prefer him stand like this, but I'll probably have to get creative with the way I pose him on the shelf because of the way the legs are. So that's also a bit of a bummer. Still quite happy to finally have a Nick Van Owen in the collection, and all kitted up, he looks solid. So do wish it was like his film outfit. I don't think anybody would have cared if they put the film outfit in the set. Like, you know, it doesn't match the 90s aesthetic. Who's gonna care? Collectors surely would not. The kids aren't gonna know it's a different outfit. So as far as niche Jurassic Park figures being referenced, the Legacy Collection Reimagined has done a really good job at referencing like kind of niche figures. Like if you were gonna do a Nick Van Owen, I would have done the original Kenner outfit with the yellow vest and then the shorts, but they referenced the Series 2 one, so that's cool at least. Next up, we've got the vehicle and trap. So, got the trap, got the vehicle. This is an odd vehicle, for sure. It does have this breakable piece that I will put on there. It does not appear to be spring-loaded at all. It looks like it just breaks, but you can see the motor underneath there. It looks like it just will slide on in. So, you get the trap. You get the vehicle. Will this slide in? Yes, it will. Look at that. Okay, so here's the vehicle all kind of put together. Yeah, it's a car. It rolls. It just kind of looks like a generic dinosaur hunting vehicle. What else do you want me to say? It's not really based off of anything, so it's mostly this casted plastic with some stickers. You do have stickers there, and then for the headlights you do have a winch there. It looks like something that could have been on Isla Sorna, but it doesn't match anything, and it doesn't necessarily match any of the 90s vehicles either. So yeah, it's got a missile launcher to launch the missile. It's a cool kind of blocky missile, and it is a new launcher. There's no reuse here. It is cool that this is a new vehicle. Like most everything in the set is new. The steering wheel will rotate. You have this breakable piece here, so you can have your dinosaurs come and bite off the front, which is very reminiscent of a lot of the 90s vehicles. They would all have some sort of dinosaur damage. The vehicle on the back of the box does show Nick Van Owen is able to mount the gun. That doesn't sound right. You get what I mean, though. He can use the turret. However, he doesn't have anywhere to peg in on the back of the vehicle, so I think your only way of getting him to stay in place is by using the grips on the gun to get him to be able to hold on. So let me do that. These are always a pain to get. So he even really doesn't want to, like, it's too high up for him, but you can kind of make it look like he's holding the gun. It's way too high up for the character to be able to stand still, and well, that looks okay. So yeah, he can sit up there and man the gun, and it does have seats for 2 other figures, so you can fit other figures in the vehicle. Malcolm might be a little tall. I got Sarah. So if we get some more 90s-ified Lost World figures, which you technically kind of have with the glider pack Malcolm, but that's also very much a Jurassic Park Malcolm. But if we get more 90s Lost World characters, that'd be pretty cool, because you can kind of kit out this vehicle. But I'd much rather just get like the standard outfits for the Lost World characters, but I digress. The vehicle can hold 2 figures. The T-Rex can come. It can attack the front and, in theory, break off this piece. And then you can subdue the dinosaur with the included gun. Now it doesn't want to shoot. It would help if I pushed it all the way in. There we go. So yeah, that's the vehicle. Pretty interesting piece. The last part of this offering is this dinosaur trap. So this is actually a pretty cool piece. I will give it credit where credit is due. It functions, so you can open it, and then you can have your T-Rex come along and chase Nick Van Owen in the car, and the T-Rex can step in the trap, and now its leg is caught and it can be subdued. So that's actually quite a cool feature and pretty playable. And it's reminiscent of the Lost World Nick Van Owen, where he did come with said trap. Like, not this trap, but he came with a trap, the Series 2 toy. So that's pretty neat. And the trap actually fits on the vehicle, which is really nice. It can slide in here, and it does stay here. It has kind of like a built-in peg hole. So altogether, the vehicle and the trap are pretty cool. It's just, it's not really based off of anything in particular that I can think of. This does not match any of the Lost World vehicles or any of the old Kenner vehicles, so I really don't know what this is supposed to be. So that's the references here. It clearly is similar to like those 90s toys where it has the gun and the dino damage, and then the trap is something pretty 90s and playable. Like, this is a very playable set, but just what it's based off of, no clue. The T-Rex is based off of the Omega T-Rex. However, the colors are not an exact match. I will throw up a picture of the Omega T-Rex. You can see the Omega T-Rex looks pretty different. It has this really ugly Florida Gators inspired color scheme, and anything Florida Gators is disgustingly gross. But yeah, it's not an exact match, and it's clearly harkens back to that Omega T-Rex, so I get the reference there. And then Nick Van Owen is quite obviously the Series 2 Nick Van Owen. I wish I had it in my collection because it's a figure I adore. I just don't have it, but it is very similar to that figure. So yeah, we're gonna jump into comparisons. So I think I've grabbed Mattel's worst and best T-Rex at this scale to compare it to, being the Legacy Collection Bull T-Rex V2, and then the Jurassic World Rebirth Extreme, the Lab Lockdown Ember, the smaller T-Rex. I never got the bigger one. This T-Rex actually appears to mostly be a new sculpt, as I kind of figured. I looked at all of my T-Rexes at this scale. I think they downsized the feet and tail a little bit and like reused the general body plan of the Extreme Chomping T-Rex, but then added some extra stuff like osteoderms and then a new T-Rex head sculpt. It's clearly a bull T-Rex, but they did use a different sculpt than this bull T-Rex head. They've not used this bull T-Rex head again. I think they were so embarrassed by this figure they've refused to acknowledge it since. Then I grabbed Ember just to kind of see, like, maybe they reused because the arms looked kind of similar, but they're different arms. Ember I still think is one of Mattel's best T-Rexes, especially at this scale, and I think this figure is like $15 at Walmart right now, so definitely worth the pickup. Move her aside so you can kind of see the Omega next to the bull, as you would if you had a retro collection. I do have the original bull. I don't have the Omega T-Rex because I do not have that kind of capital. So they both are actually quite similar. Like, they're both male T-Rexes. They both have unpainted feet, and they both kind of have bad paint jobs, except this T-Rex has like the worst paint job ever. Mattel really fumbled this figure. Genuinely worst paint job they've ever done, in my opinion. And then this Rex, quite similarly, has very little paint as well. It's a bit smaller feeling, this Rex, which is probably how they were able to kind of lower the price point of this set. But it's still a pretty substantial T-Rex, and I do like the added articulation. And, well, I guess they removed some articulation to add some articulation, but the posability on this guy's great. So definitely really am a fan of this T-Rex, for sure. Nick Van Owen, quite disappointingly, has a lot of reuse. Yeah, it's really only his head sculpt and accessories that are new. He's really just a kit bash of different mercenary figures. This is the Fallen Kingdom mercenary with the bulletproof vest. He's had a couple different releases. This is the Dominion release. So he uses the torso of this guy, which kind of is a bummer. It's very similar to the 93 Classic Nedry, where he also just reused mercenary parts and had a new head sculpt. But yeah, the torso is the same. You can see the pockets are in the same spots on the bulletproof vest, and yeah, it's the same. And then you're like, well, his gun is in a different spot. So he uses the legs and arms of this mercenary. Like, they are the same piece. The arms are in the same positions. They are different colored, obviously, but I'm going to show you all something. This mercenary was exclusive to a 2-pack, but it is a reuse of the Ken Wheatley figures. So as you can see, these are all in the same position. It's the same arm, same legs, and it's kind of a bummer that they reused so much on this figure. Like, the head sculpt is the only new thing on Nick Van Owen, which is a bit of a bummer, but you know, it's just kind of the 93 Classic Legacy Reimagined is a repaint line, and it is cool that we at least got the new head sculpt for Nick Van Owen, because they could have easily just done a generic mercenary. They've done generic mercenaries in Legacy Reimagined, so at least we did get Nick Van Owen. And speaking of Nick Van Owen, we've got his Lost World friends, and I guess enemies. I don't think he'd consider the Evil Raiders friends, but here he is next to Ian and Sarah. We just need a Kelly and Eddie Carr to round out the Lost World heroes. If we're gonna get those, please, Mattel, movie accurate designs. If you want to give us more Lost World 90s figures, Malcolm and Sarah need new versions. And they've done reuse. Like, Sarah has some reuse on her. She reuses a lot of Claire from the Fallen Kingdom line, but you know, she is a lot less reuse than Nick Van Owen, and she at least matches her film appearance. We also have Dieter Stark, and we have Dieter Stark and Roland Tembo. Honestly, Dieter Stark would not be a bad base to do a more film accurate Nick Van Owen. You might have to do some kit bashing and repainting, but honestly, he might work. You just would have to work with the figure a bit. Him or an Owen would probably make a decent base to do a film accurate Nick Van Owen. He looks a little off next to his Lost World film accurate counterparts. That's why I wanted a film accurate Nick Van Owen to go on my Lost World shelf, and he's gonna go on the Lost World shelf, but he looks much better next to his 90s-ified Lost World counterparts, being Owen Grady, yes, and Ian Malcolm here. They are the closest things to Lost World retro figures we have, so they look, you know, much better next to each other. Obviously, Owen Grady is inspired off of the Carter's dirt bike look from the Lost World, so he's very reminiscent to that Lost World figure. And then Malcolm is based off of Glider Pack Malcolm, which also was a 90s figure. So yeah, the 90s, he looks a lot better next to the more 90s styled figures, because that's what he is. He's a 90s styled figure. So I was fully prepared to open this set and rip it to shreds, because when I got it in and looked at it, I was kind of disappointed actually seeing Nick Van Owen in hand, like seeing in-hand photos of him and then getting the set, but actually opening it up and playing with it a little bit, it's actually a pretty solid set. The price point is there. Nick Van Owen, I'm just happy to have a Nick Van Owen in the collection finally. I'm actually overjoyed to have him, so very excited about that. The T-Rex is actually a great figure. The paint scheme's kind of bad, but like sculpt-wise and the new articulation's great. Awesome figure. This vehicle, I'm sure someone could do something cool with it with some toys photography. I'm probably not going to be displaying it just because I don't have the space for it, and it doesn't really fit anywhere, I guess. So for the money you pay, not a bad set. Nick Van Owen's the highlight. As I said, I do wish it was more film accurate, but the reuse, while annoying, it looks good. Like it looks good. Some more paint on would have been nice. Some more paint all around would have been nice, but it's modern Mattel. They don't paint anything. They just do molded plastic and call it a day. So yeah, I do recommend this set. I might wait to see if it goes on like a 20% discount at some point, because $53 is a little pricey. But honestly, feeling much more positive about this set than I initially was. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Hopefully, if you guys have watched all the way through, I appreciate the like, comment, and subscription. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Yeah, I'll keep pumping out content, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you guys in another video. Hope you take care and take it easy.